Wednesday, June 15th, 2022. Business meeting and work session of the Richmond Municipal Board of Trustees. Can you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If we could have the reading of the mission and vision, please.
Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
Vision statement of Richmond Community Schools is a community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2, celebrations. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I ask that Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker, our communication specialist, approach us this evening with tonight's celebratory efforts and matters.
Good evening. We'd like to celebrate 2 of our students that competed at state for track. Keena Barker is a freshman. She placed 26th place, and unfortunately, she is not here tonight because she is in Costa Rica. But hopefully, she'll get when she comes back. When she returns back home, we'll have her come to a meeting so we get some photos of her. She again finished 26th place in the state meet for the girls' meet in the 1600. And then we also have recently graduated Marquise Johnson. He's going to come up here in just a second. He just finished his senior year at Richmond High School. He wrapped up his track career in 19th place at the IHSA state meet with an official time of 11.12 seconds in the 100-meter dash. So Marquise, will you please come up here for a moment? Do you have any questions you'd like to ask Marquise?
What was the time again?
It was 11.12.
So you just beat my record. 11.12 in the 100. Ooh, that's so you can outrun an average dog there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, congratulations. We indeed are extremely excited and proud of our students that participate in extracurriculars, whether it be performing arts, band, orchestra, choir, but definitely also our athletes. And so we know that the past 4 years there at RHS, you indeed have represented yourself in the different athletic teams that you've competed on quite well. So again, congratulations in this endeavor, and definitely wish you the best as you continue to prolong your athletic career.
Where are you going in the fall again?
I did football, basketball, baseball, and track.
And where are you going in the fall?
St. Francis.
What do you plan to study? Education and come back and be a teacher?
Health and exercise science.
Okay.
I didn't hear what you said.
Say a little louder.
Health and exercise science to be a physical therapist.
Okay, so I hurdled here for a number of years, and then I was assistant coach with the track team for a while. For you as an athlete, forget all the other sports, but track in particular, because it is an individual sport, even though it is a team sport. What went through your mind, and how did you prepare yourself, knowing that you ran alone, but you represented, 30 other people?
It was just like good knowing that I could go far on my own. Like it just kept made me keep like pushing hard outside of practice, practicing. Like it's really motivating knowing like it's just me, but I got everybody cheering for me here. So it's
And last question, what was your proudest moment of your 4-year career?
probably getting academic Ball State.
Whoa.
I was going to highlight that without a doubt, you also are quite the astute learner and scholar. How difficult has it been? I mean, you just mentioned 4 sports, which is a rarity nowadays when student athletes and students in general participating in extracurriculars. They focus in on one particular talent, one particular gift. You identified 4 sports, which require a lot of sacrificial time. How are you able to juggle your schedule athletically and with performing arts? Extracurriculars with academics.
You just gotta put the schoolwork first, but I was just make sure I got all my homework in before I did like anything else. And then if you just turn in your homework, it's really easy. Sports on top of it, it's really just turning in the homework and then to get you grades.
And so you were with us K through 12, kindergarten, all the way through your senior year?
I went to a different high school my freshman year.
Okay, you found your way home. Good for you.
Who do you have someone here with you today?
Yeah, my girlfriend, Courtney Urban, and my mom, Dia Ward.
If they could stand and just receive the acknowledgement, that'd be great. There.
Marquise, are you planning to run and play football in college?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Congratulations, continue to do what you do, and more importantly, it's just amazing, as you mentioned, from an academic standpoint. Not only your parents and family and guardians have been of support, but of the classroom teachers that you've had. I know that they've prepared you quite well, so continue to do what you do. Yes, sir. Proud of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I remember we used to play basketball and baseball with my son. So anyway, all right. We also have two other students we'd like to highlight. Miss Zoe Brock just finished her junior year at Richmond High School. She has been crowned the 2022 Wayne County 4-H Queen. And Miss Holly Trotter, she just finished her freshman year at Richmond High School, and she has been named the 2022 Wayne County 4-H Teen Queen. So
Yes.
please come on forward.
I promise not to dominate the discussion. Someone else.
I have a question. What things do you participate in the high school? What activities or extracurricular things are you guys involved with?
So I played varsity golf. I play volleyball and tennis.
And Holly, are you still doing horseback riding as well? Fun. All right. Girls look all fancy.
Western or English?
I do both.
Okay. Specialty?
What?
Specialty?
I like Western better.
Okay.
What was the most difficult aspect of the competition? And now that you all are and have been identified as the 4-H Queens, what's something that you're looking forward to do with your new fame and status?
I think for me, the age bracket for the teen division is 16 through 21. So I definitely was nervous, like going in there because I'm competing against college girls. So I wasn't expecting to win at all. Like I really wasn't. So when they announced my name, like I literally told Cassidy, who was the other queen, I was like, did they get it wrong? Like, did they just got me wrong? This can't be right. Like, I'm 17. But I think now, as we enter Fair Week, which starts this weekend, it's more sinking in. And I'm just really excited to get to know the girls that are on my court. And we're really ready to make some fun memories together.
Well, in my group, I had 8 people, and I think that's one of the biggest amount of people in the thing that I've ever competed in. And so I'm just really excited for this Fair Week, getting to know people and just having fun time.
Was there a particular question that may have been posed to you all during the competition that somewhat threw a curveball at you, or that you were a little anxious and nervous about answering, or did you all just knock all of them out of the park?
So for the queen division part of the night contest, we have an impromptu question. So we don't know what that question is going to be. We just picked it out of a fishbowl. So all of us girls were nervous because we didn't know which question we were going to get, but it's not too bad.
For mine, so I was expecting more 4-H questions, and they just threw out, "What's your favorite food?" And so that kind of made me laugh because I didn't think they were going to ask those questions.
So what is your favorite food, if you don't mind me asking?
Steak.
Steak. Steak, okay.
So, what 4-H activities were you part? I know there's lots of clubs and everything. I'm guessing horses, but Zoe.
I just do photography.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't show any animals.
So tell us how competing in the queen pageant, the teen queen, would help as far as like life skills.
You definitely get better at talking, and you also warm up to different people, so it's easier to talk to random people that you know.
Yeah, a large portion of the points is interview. So I ran the contest back in 2016 when I was 11, and that was my first time interviewing at all. So I think being able to interview at such a young age has definitely helped because I learned that skill at a young age and I've been able to progress in that skill, and it's a skill that I'm going to use for the rest of my life.
I'm noticing some good eye contact, articulation, so
What schools did you guys go to? Elementary schools, or what other schools did you guys go to?
I went to Hibbard at middle school as part of the Lubbock program.
What about? You went to Breast Out with your brain. And who'd you guys bring with you?
I brought my mom.
I brought my mom's friends in college.
If the parents can just stand up and just. I can imagine that they more than likely were just as nervous, if not more nervous during the competition.
It was awful.
As a father myself, it's amazing when your children are participating in or competing, and you want the best for them, but you know that there's really nothing that you can do during the event. And so, well, congratulations, ladies. Oh,
I'm curious, do you have duties this week during the fair? What are there things that you're required to do this week?
Yeah, we have a lot going on. So if you come out to the fair anytime, one of us will be out there for sure. So we pass out ribbons in all of the livestock shows. So we do that in their other events, like the frog jumping contest. We queens get to kiss a frog. We're very excited about that. There's round robin. There's a car show. Yeah. Oh yeah, and then we have a meet and greet with all the queen court, so we'll all be there.
Yeah, do you guys move on to state fair? How does that work? Does that move?
Yeah,
move
so
on past
only
this?
for Miss Wayne County. So in January, I'll be competing in the state fair competition.
well, best of luck with that. No doubt about it. Yes, go get them. We're definitely very proud and so appreciative.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Like 20 years, I will not have a horse.
Moving on to item 3, public commentary. I will read a short statement. The Board of School Trustees recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on corporation matters. The board wants to ensure the public feels welcome and that the concerns are answered in a timely, efficient manner. The maximum time for individual speaker is 5 minutes per person. The board expects personal decorum and factual information from the speaker. The president reserves the right to interrupt the speaker when a statement is too lengthy, personally directed, abusive, or obscene, or if it interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Comments recognizing the work of the staff and students are always welcome. However, critical remarks concerning specific school personnel or students are made through the complaint process available in policy 8130. School board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting. The public participant will receive a follow-up email from the board president within a week. Thank you. And did you say 3?
we just have 3.
No, Mrs. Playful, you'll keep time.
Yep. Emily Christian.
I'm sorry for chatting. I'm back.
Give them just a minute.
Should I introduce myself? I'm Emily Christian,
Yes.
Angry Mom Club. I'm gonna say some things that aren't gonna make many friends here or over here, so bear with me, I'll get there. I don't think many will completely agree with me, but that's okay. I stood right here about a year ago talking about how happy I was that Curtis Wright was going to be coming to join us at RCS as our superintendent. I was happy to welcome him, and several other people were joining me at the time too. And I might be naive, I might be dumb, or maybe I'm just not willing to say that I'm wrong yet, but I'm not ready to give up yet. I'm angry with so much that has happened this past year. We've been having a trying time for this past year, and to be absolutely honest, I'm still mad, and I've lost a lot of trust with both you, Curtis, and with the board as well. But I'm not ready to give up. We need things to be better. I think that we brought our hometown boy in with too much expectation that too much was going to change. We can't fix everything at once. And that expectation has led to a lot of jumping at the chance to fix any little problems here and there, but we're missing the big picture. It seems that decisions are being made, and then the community reacts, and then the plan changes. I think it's great to listen, but it would be better to think these plans through and see the true impact on everyone involved before making the decision. And then there won't be so much confusion and frustration with the plans and policies changing constantly. It's just feeling like our decisions aren't being made with a big plan in mind. But instead, we're making quick decisions to put out the current fire while missing the mess that it's leaving behind. Here's my advice to you as our superintendent. Take in all of the advice that people give to you. Listen and really hear what they're saying. Think about what they're saying and why they are saying it to you. Are they thinking about what is best for RCS? Are they looking out for themselves? Do they even know what they're talking about? Is there any tangible evidence to support that their suggestions are even good suggestions? Is there scientific proof? Is there something that has worked in other districts? Do not just listen to the people who work here in this building. Get out and ask staff and parents and students what they really think will make RCS amazing. Do not send out a survey that has choices that are not really choices, but just a way for us to say we've asked the parents what they think. And yes, I'm thinking about the e-learning survey that we got recently. Take your time before you make changes. You have time now because the board has extended your contract. The least you could do is use it in a way that serves our district the best. Before you make big decisions, sit with those choices. Think about how the choice will impact everyone involved. Also, think about the trauma our students have been through in the past several years. I'm talking about the pandemic and culture wars across the country.
You have 1 minute.
Okay. I'm also talking about the poverty that's common in our district. But I'm also talking about the trauma that our students have been through with superintendents who are using us as a stepping stone to make big things happen and to make us look good from the outside. I don't care what they think about us from the outside. Others have tried to make big, sudden changes to make RCS look better. I want our students to be loved and supported and educated and to be ready for whatever is next for them. We need to be the calm for the families in our district. And Curtis, I know I've said this to you before. You went to a Quaker school. Quakers take forever to make decisions. This is a good thing. Use this time to make us proud.
Thank you.
Linda Morganson.
Good evening, Dr. Wright, President Weber, and members of the board. Actually, Emily and I didn't plan our speeches together, but they do go together. So as I was thinking about talking here tonight, today, all day long, I was pondering, what is it that I should say? So I decided to talk to you about your roadmap. I don't know about you, but sometimes I still use a roadmap, whether it is paper or whether it's electronic. But I need that map to get me where I need to go. If something happens to my GPS, or I don't have someone in there to help me in the car to help me navigate, I get lost. And I feel that's where we are right now, lost. So how do we find, or how does this organization find their way? Well, you have something right in front of you that is so important. You have a mission statement, you have a vision statement, you have board goals, and you have board beliefs. If you haven't visited those lately, I would suggest that you visit them immediately, because that is your roadmap. And I'm not noticing that they're being used though. And I'm just going to give some examples that I thought were pertinent. For instance, here is one of the board goals. Create a highly desirable workplace environment that attracts, develops, and retains talented staff. Yep. That should speak to you, because we are losing out on excellent educators. I don't know how you expect to replace them, because there just aren't that many educators out there right now and educators that want to come to Richmond. To me, that is a real concern. Another one of your board goals is to strengthen internal and external relationships. And for each of these board goals, you have metrics in place, ways to measure whether or not those goals are being met. And so I think it's time to look at those carefully. One of the board belief statements is this: learning is most productive when there is collaboration among students, parents, staff, and community. Do you really believe this? Do you really believe the statements that are written and that have been adopted? Maybe not adopted by you as a body right now, but they have been adopted to be used as your roadmap. And until you decide to change them, they need to be used. You know, leadership is so important. And the best leaders lead with their followers in mind. Leadership is defined as the act of getting individuals aligned and moving in the same direction toward a desired outcome. Do you really think that's what's happening right now in Richmond Community Schools? I have one more thing to say about leadership. What followers crave the most are trust, compassion, stability, and hope. And I hope that you think about all of those things. Thank you.
Kelly McDermott.
Good evening, Kelly McDermott, teacher and REA president. On May 25th, I stood before you to share the results of a survey that was conducted by the association. The result of that survey was very clear. The teachers of RCS expressed by overwhelming numbers that they lack confidence in the superintendent or the board to lead the school district. As president of the association and as a teacher at Richmond Community Schools, it pains me to say this. As a long-serving teacher and graduate of RCS, it breaks my heart. A vote of no confidence is an extreme method of communication. It's not an action of last resort, but it is certainly an action born of incredible discontent and frustration on the part of the teachers who live each day in the deepest trenches of our educational system. I've always believed that in any community, the school system should be the essential institution of the community. Outside of the family and perhaps faith-based communities, the school system is the institution charged with preparing our children and our young people for the future. Their future is our future. Their success or failure determines the very quality of life of our community. It's an awesome and immense responsibility. When this institution is not healthy, the repercussions of what ails it ripples out to the students, their families, and to the community as a whole. In my role as president of the association, I've always tried to focus first and foremost on problem solving. To solve a problem, it's necessary to clearly identify and define the problem. The initiative for the survey that was taken was organic, originating with the membership, not with me. The discontent and the frustration of the teachers increased over this last school year as teachers watched respected, highly competent, and valued leaders demeaned and demoted. The chaos that so many unexplained changes created was a climate of fear and mistrust. At bargaining, the association was denied access to accurate information. At multiple corporate discussion meetings, the administration either was unwilling or unable to participate in meaningful discussion on the initiatives and the changes that were proposed, unable to provide answers to important questions and provide rationales for the proposed changes. Marathon corporate discussion meetings held on 4 separate occasions ended with increased frustration and lack of confidence in the ability of the administrative leadership to explain the most basic questions regarding those proposed changes. The board's self-serving action of reducing their health, dental, vision, and life insurance premiums to $1 each further alienated teachers, particularly after we all absorbed a $20 per pay hike in our own premiums. To be clear, no one is begrudging the board members being able to carry the same insurance. We simply expect that our leaders share the burdens of those that they lead. With regard to the issue of the displacement of the early college students, critical stakeholders appear to have been completely bypassed and left out of the conversation. Were students and parents included in the discussion and the development of the proposal? No. Teachers were given the opportunity to serve on a committee, but the committee was abruptly vacated from the important discussion regarding the students of early college. Once the proposal to displace the students was shared at corporate discussion, teachers immediately spoke in opposition to that planned action. With both passion and reason, we have advocated for those most impacted by this decision, our kids. I'm proud of my colleagues, those at Hibbard and throughout the district and those behind me, who continue to advocate for the kids. They have put the kids front and foremost. Teachers provide our students with optimal educational opportunities. We challenge them. We soothe their wounds. We hold them to account when they misstep, and we hold them up on their journey to success. We love them. We rejoice in their successes, and sadly, through illness, accident, or violence, we too often grieve them. We know our students. We know the background they come from. We know their struggles. We know their challenges, and we know what they seek to overcome. We listen to their dreams. We guide them through academic lessons, but we also undergird them and support their social and emotional needs. We are there with them day in and day out. Those behind me know the impact that moving students out of early college will have on those kids. Think about an incoming 8th grader who spent the previous 3 years within a safe community where they have developed relationships, where they have built trust, where they belong. And now they have to transition to Dennis, to an unfamiliar building, unfamiliar teachers for 1 year, only to turn around and have to make an additional transition to RHS. Why? Why? Why is it necessary to impose a willful stressor on our kids and on our parents who were promised the early college experience? The rationale that was shared at the last board meeting was a renovation of classrooms. I'm sorry, but that's disingenuous. We renovate buildings all the time with kids still operating in them. The high school has been undergoing a pretty significant renovation with classes still there, classes still functioning. They've done it at Dennis. They've done it at almost every building. Students who are displaced are going to leave behind a full-time administrator, full-time stationary office staff, operational costs for a building that's vastly underpopulated. Is this a useful resource or use of our resources? The need to send the students to test in Dennis for the STEM Academy when work could have been planned to have been done this summer, it makes no sense to me. The students at early college were recruited based upon the mission of encouraging students from families who have no college background to see a path forward to obtaining college degrees themselves. Who are their advocates in this debate? Who represents them in this debate? It's the people behind me. The board is asking teachers to accept what they, board members who are not in daily contact with the students, have decided to do without a clear rationale. Teachers, on the other hand, are advocating that the board listen to the teachers who know these students and the impact that this decision will have upon those students. For teachers, this is a choice between what the system is mandating from the top versus what they believe is actually best for our students. What they believe is in the best interest of the students that they know, and with all due respect, you don't. Quite frankly, I'm saddened by the fact that the board appears to be moving forward with the plan to displace the students, particularly without being able to provide a rationale that stands up to either precedence or reason, and additionally compassion. When teachers go unheard, unvalued, and left out of these important conversations, students are left out as well. At one of the contentious corporate discussion meetings on this issue, where we continued to ask for a rationale that made sense but received none, I shared the following sentiment. When I go home tonight, I'll be able to lay my head on my pillow, confident in the knowledge that I did all that I could to advocate for the academic, social, and emotional well-being of the students at early college. Knowing that the vote that you take this evening has the potential to unnecessarily cause anxiety, stress, and disruption to the lives of our early college students, will you be able to do the same?
Ms. Claypool, that.
That's it.
Moving on to item 3.02, return to in-person learning. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I ask that Mrs. Don Sansini approach our board with request for approval as presented.
Good evening, Dr. Wright and board members. The U.S. Department of Education regulations require that the RCS return to in-person instruction plan be reviewed and revised as needed every 6 months, including public comment. There is no change to current practice. We are just updating the language. It is recommended that the Board of School Trustees accepts the return to in-person instruction plan as presented. The next required posting deadline for the district website is June 24th, 2022. Since the last posting, effective February 25th, 2022, the CDC does not require wearing of masks on buses operated by public school systems. Schools are still required to report cases to the Wayne County Health Department. And again, the opportunity for public comment will be available this evening at our school board meeting. Do you have any questions regarding the plan?
We don't have to vote on this, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Sansini. I'd open the floor for Anyone like to comment on the returned in-person learning plan? There wasn't a sign-up sheet, so if you'd like to speak, you're just need to make that known. Seeing no one, we'll move on to consent items. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I come before you to ask for approval of consent items 4.01 through 4.05 with addendum to consent item 4.02.
Thank you.
I'll make the second. That we approve, we also, if it doesn't go through with it. We approve the consent agenda together and you next will sit down.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Schleifer,
Second.
second by Kristen Brunton. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Just to confirm, Mr. Cross, we do not need to vote on the return to plan, or do we need to vote?
You need to, there's no changes, so you really don't need to vote. The minutes will just show the public hearing, so.
Okay.
There's no changes in that we still follow the CDC guidelines. The guidelines themselves have changed.
Thank you. Moving on to action items. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I ask that Mrs. Karen Scalf, our Chief Financial Officer, present action items 5.01 through 5.10 as presented. Mrs. Scalf.
Okay, you will have to bear with me. My computer has started an update, and so I'm going to,
So did ours.
I'm going to have to kind of weed some of this, I think. So the first item on the action agenda is the additional docket request. Due to the early board meeting in June, we have some grants closing at the end of this month, and we need to run an additional docket to make sure that all of those items get taken care of. The docket would be approved by the board on the July 13th, 2022 meeting, but this will allow us to pay our vendors in a timely manner and also close out those grants appropriately where necessary. So it's my recommendation that the board grants permission to process an additional docket in June of this year, as it's been presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Scott.
I'll move that we approve an additional docket.
Motion by Keith Morey, second by Nicole Schultz. Any questions or comments?
Just thanks for doing that in a time when we're all trying to take our own little breaks and vacations and all that sort of thing. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Mrs. Scow.
Okay, under 5.02, we have donations, and this month we have 35 donations before you, totaling $15,444. We did receive a number of donations to the music department, both to choir and to band, as well as some scholarships and athletics. We also received Proudly Presenting series donors at Civic Hall. So tonight, it's my request that you approve the $15,444 in donations set before you tonight.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion that we approve the donations.
Motion by Jeff Slifer,
I'll second.
second by Keith Morey. Any questions or comments?
Just the comment of thank you. Look at this wonderful list of people in our community who are giving back to our students in our classrooms and to our programs. So thank you.
Agreed. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Mrs. Scow.
Okay, moving on. We have a change order on the mechanical modernization project over at RHS. The change order is with Carroll Electric in the amount of $10,103.39. And you can see by the documentation provided that it was for replacement of some valves that were found to be in need once they got into the project. over in the central plant. So it's my recommendation that we approve this change order for Carroll Electric Inc.
Thank you, Mrs. Scott. Happy to entertain a motion.
All motion to approve.
Motion by Brad Walton,
I'll second.
second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Mrs. Scout.
Okay, item 5.04 is a temporary transfer to a depleted fund. Tonight, I'm requesting that there is a temporary transfer to the textbook rental fund. Currently, the balance is $254,210.12 in the hole. And we would like to transfer from the rainy day fund $260,000 to maintain a positive cash position. The temporary loan will be repaid on or before June 30th, 2023. As we've done in the past, we try to repay this as soon as possible. So the recommendation tonight is that the school board approves a request for a temporary transfer to the textbook rental fund to be repaid June of 2023.
Thank you, Mrs. Scout.
I'll make the motion that we approve the temporary transfer.
Motion by Jeff Slifer,
Second.
second by Kristen Brunton. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Mrs. Scout.
Okay, the next action item is the Richmond Art Museum agreement for the joint facility usage. This agreement originated, I believe, in 2016 or 18. There is a resolution that was passed at the original time, but it is not in need of change. And so before you tonight is just the renewal of that agreement. It just spells out that RAM is a partner and that we mutually use the facility in which they're housed. So you can refer to that agreement on board docs. It is before you tonight. It is for a term of 5 years and there is no monetary value associated with this contract. So it is a partnership agreement.
So I ended up talking to their director, Ron Dingworth, just a couple hours ago, and he had a couple of questions for Ron in regards to the renewal, just verbiage. So can I propose that we postpone voting on this? Will that set us back by any means until you guys can confer and we can ask those questions? So if that's all right, I would like to propose that.
So you can make a motion to table it.
I'll make a motion to table this. Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion to table by Nicole Stoltz, second by Brad Walton. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0, and the item is tabled. Moving on to Head Start agreement. Is that you, Mrs. Snow? No, back to Mr. Dr. Wright.
Yes, President Weber, trustees, actually, I apologize. I believe indeed.
But I can take it.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Interesting enough, I will ask that Mr. Scout indeed bring before our board action item 5.06 Head Start agreement as presented. Mrs. Scout.
Okay, this is an agreement for special education services with Head Start. This is an annual agreement. So it is no change from the prior year, but it does state that we recommend providing special education services for all Head Start locations within RCS boundaries. This is a provision within Article 7 and supports our child find obligations. With this approval, we will provide services as the legal education agency, LEA, for Head Start schools within Richmond Community Schools District. This, as I said before, it's no change to any prior year. It does meet all of our obligations for services, and it is with Head Start for the 2022-2023 school year.
Thank you. Entertain a motion.
I move to approve 5.06, the Head Start agreement.
Motion by Aaron Stevens,
Second?
Second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Back to you, Mrs. Scott.
Yes. Tonight before you, we have our annual agreement with communities and schools. This is for services that communities and schools provides throughout the district. They will continue providing resources at the elementary, intermediate, and high school levels. The services and costs are identical to the 2021-2022 agreement and the addendum that was passed last year and is also included in this year's agreement. So it's my recommendation tonight that the board approve the MOU for communities and schools as it has been presented.
Thank you. Happy to entertain a motion.
So moved. To pass 5.07, CIS MOU.
Motion by Nicole Stoltz, second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments?
I guess I'd like to just add that when Mrs. Stoltz and I visited schools this last year, we were able to visit several of the people who work with communities and schools, and I have at the high school as well. And the work that they do is amazing and needed in our schools with our students. So,
Thank you both.
No, I mean, and just thinking of the work that they did above and beyond during the pandemic, especially, and just the carryover, the relationships that they build, it's, I'm very grateful for what they're doing. I'm glad that we're able to partner with them.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to 5.08, Scout.
Okay, tonight before you is an agreement with LWC Inc. For architectural professional services and preparing the documents associated with Test and Charles HVAC upgrades. The contract before you is reflective of sealed quotes that were received from a number of architectural agencies, and LWC was the lowest of the vendors who provided quotes. So I would recommend that we approve this contract with the LWC for professional services associated with Test and Charles HVAC upgrades.
I'll mention that we approve 5.08 professional services for Test and Charles HVAC.
Motion by Brad Walton,
I'll second.
second by Nicole Stoltz. Questions or comments?
Just want to make a point that even though they may have been the low quoter, that's, you're not bound. This is a service, so there are subjective criteria that can be assessed. I'm sure the committee that received the quotes has taken those into consideration, but this is not a bid. So that's my point.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Down to 5.09, Mrs. Scott.
Okay, so tonight before you is a request to advertise for the RHS Tower Restoration Project. We would like to publish the notice of bidders required on this project on Friday, June 17th, and again on Friday, June 24th, so that we could have the bid opening on Friday, July 15th at 3 p.m. here in the administration office. And a recommendation will possibly be made at the July 27th board meeting, should those bids provide that timeline to be met. So it's my recommendation tonight that the Board of School Trustees approves the request to advertise the notice to bidders for the RHS Tower Restoration Project.
I move that we advertise the RHS Tower work.
I'll second.
Motion by Nicole Stoltz, second by Keith Morag. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 5.10, Mrs. Scout.
Okay, tonight, the last item that I have is the request to advertise for the RHS pool filtration replacement. We are requesting permission of the Board of School Trustees to publish the required notice to bidders for the RHS pool filtration replacement. We would like to publish this notice Friday, June 17th, and again on Friday, June 24th, with a bid opening to be held Friday, July 8th at 3 p.m. here in the administration building. We hope that a recommendation could possibly be made at the July 13th or July 27th portions. So it's my recommendation tonight that the Board of School Trustees approves the request to advertise the notice to bidders for the RHS pool filtration replacement.
Thank you.
I'll move that we approve the request to advertise the notice of bidders for the RHS pool filtration replacement.
Second.
Motion by Keith Morey, second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments?
I guess is the goal to have this completed then before, when I look at the schedule, before swim season starts?
Yes,
That's the hope.
that's the goal. Supply chain issues are causing some concerns everywhere, but we do hope that won't be any problem. So
You remember the
we
last,
don't expect problems with this.
how long has it been since the filtration system should have changed? Do you remember?
Before my time, I do not know. It's been a while since we've had to do the whole. This is a whole
The
system.
whole system. I know a while they had it, Jeff, you may remember, they had it dug up and had to redo some of the chlorine lines or ozone lines, something going into it. Can't remember that. Okay.
And I will say this is the last of the 2020 bond projects, other than the flooring. So these are the last two pieces. This is one of them for that.
Thank you, Mrs. Scott. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 5.11, map adoption. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I ask that Mrs. Donaldson return to present items 5.11 through 5.15 as presented.
It is recommended that the Board of School Trustees approve the following math adoption materials for the 2022-2023 school year. Committee of K-12 math educators met throughout the school year to research, pilot, and evaluate available resources. For K-8, our recommendation is Ready Math, including the iReady diagnostic, place of NWA math. This includes logos, grades 3 and 4, as well as CYS. For grades 7 through 12 honors, CPM, this includes Dennis, grades 7 and 8, one accelerated class per grade level, Hibbard, grades 5 through 8, and RHS. In grades 9 through 12, Reveal with Alex, which is an online component, and that is for RHS. Again, these are math adoption recommendations, so curricular resources.
Thank you, Mrs. Happy to entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion. We accept this math adoption.
Motion by Jeff Schleifer,
I'll second.
second by Keith Morey. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 5.12, textbook fees. Mrs. Dunn.
It is recommended that the Board of School Trustees approve the following attached textbook fees as presented for the 2022-2023 school year. The 2020, 2021, and 2021-2022 are also listed for your information. New fees have been established for math textbook adoption, reading intervention, and Canvas or learning maintenance. Fees in grades 7 through 12 vary based on individual student schedules.
Thank you. Entertain a motion.
I move to approve 5.12 textbook fees as presented.
Motion by Aaron Stevens,
I'll second.
second by Jeff Schleifer. Any questions or comments?
I just want to make sure, we do still have in place, funds available for if students are unable to pay for that. Just want to confirm that, yes.
Yes.
And we do need, part of the way that we are reimbursed for that is for people to fill out the.
Correct. So the textbook assistance form will be available July 1st. It will be online with the enrollment information provided. It is a part of registration. for back to school. So that is needed for textbook assistance. With us being on 100% free breakfast and lunch, it's still vitally important for people to fill that out if they want textbook assistance. So the portal will be open. If they need assistance, they can go into their building or stop by central office. We have staff ready and available to help. So.
And we'll have that information communicated again.
Yes,
once-
it goes out with back to school information. It goes out with registration and enrollment information, as well as we do a push once school starts. The final deadline on that is September 30. So we do a couple of pushes throughout the time to make sure that we alert people to that deadline. The other thing to keep in mind is if they don't qualify for textbook assistance, we do payment plans, and we can make those work with families. Anyone who needs it.
So in order to receive assistance, if you qualify, you need to have that completed by September
30th is the best date, because that's the date that makes sure that you don't get any other letters and any other information.
I have one question. We did a relief project, was it 2 years ago now? Is that still in place?
No, that was repaid last year.
Okay.
So that's why we had to do the
what we did.
temporary loan tonight. That is not currently in place. We can have conversations if we need to in the future about that.
I mean, the fees have increased. It wasn't quite bad as it was 2 years ago, I don't believe.
Right.
I think just it as a side note to that, we are one of only 8 states in the country that still charge book fees. So it would be really great if our legislators in the state would see to it that we wouldn't have to charge those, and could be one of the 42, join the ranks of the 42 that do not charge book fees. That'd be really helpful. I know they've attempted to do that multiple times.
Who's the legislative
So-
liaison?
That's Keith.
Oh.
Yeah.
That'd be
You're putting yourself in
You might
work.
suggest that their reading of the term tuition is a little narrow as it's in the Indiana Constitution.
Yeah. So again, I know just from a quick look that has been attempted, and I think if we can send checks to every taxpayer back this year, maybe we could afford to go ahead and pay for book fees. That's just my 2 cents as your legislative liaison.
Thank you, Mr. Maury. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 5.13, Mrs. Sun.
It is recommended that the Board of School Trustees approves the following contract for IXL for Dennis Middle School for the 2022-2023 school year. IXL allows for individualized skill practice in ELA and math. School improvement grant funds will be used.
Thank you.
I move we approve action item 5.13, IXL learning.
Motion by Kristen Brunton,
Second.
second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments?
My comment would be that I used IXL for my classroom. It's an internet-based program that was very helpful for individualized practice for students. In math or language arts, so the student just needed help with fractions. You could go specifically to fractions and they could do problems and work up to their level, and it saves their work. So it was a great resource that I used as an educator.
Anything else? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 5.14, Mrs. Sonsini.
Richmond Community Schools has been selected to host the Summer of Learning Conference on July 20th, 2022. This professional development opportunity will offer various sessions on blended learning tools for RCS educators, as well as other educators across the state. It is recommended that the Board of School Trustees accept the contracts for the following non-RCS presenters for the upcoming conference. These speakers will be compensated using the Summer of Learning grant funds that have been awarded to Richmond Community Schools. Presenters will be compensated $100 per session.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Someone again, Brazil contract.
Motion by Jeff Schleifer,
Second.
second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, could you just kind of paint a picture for us as far as like what this will look like? What's the lineup, the itinerary?
Absolutely. So on July 20th, we will be hosting the e-learning Summer of Learning Conference. We are one of, I believe, 12 or 13 sites across the state. We have presenters internally that are teachers. We have principals that are even presenting, and then we have outside presenters. Our keynote speaker is Matt Miller, and he is famous for writing digital textbooks, but he's done much work across the state in terms of technology and blended learning. So the day will consist of 4 sessions and then a keynote presentation. The keynote will be at Civic Hall, and then the sessions will be in the high school in the areas that are not being renovated. And then we'll be providing lunch. We've been able to receive many donations from some of the contracts and vendors that we use for technology platforms. So really excited about that. So we will have free breakfast. We will have free lunch. We're working on some swag here for those that come. And there's no cost to the conference for anyone who attends.
And do we have like an estimated attendance or?
We have 170 registered right now, so we're really shooting for 200.
And so, and is this, sorry, is this something that's like how far would people be coming for this?
Really, it just kind of depends. From across the state, we have a lot of relationships that have been formed with our technology and e-learning team. So we even have presenters that where, for example, Mr. Arnold or Mr. Hill or Mrs. Robinson have gone out and presented at another tech conference, and then those people come back and present for us. So I would say across the state, we've opened it up to all of our county schools and invited them in. So if they want to participate, as well as our non-pubs.
Okay. Thanks.
In the sessions, I didn't say content. Obviously blended learning, but anything from remediation in terms of reading and math skill with COVID. Some of our math adoption vendors will be there to kind of give a sneak peek. But it's a great lineup, and again, we have over 170 already registered. Thanks.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. And Mrs. Sunstein? 5.15, school improvement plan.
Yes, it is recommended that the Board of School Trustees approves the school improvement plans that have been presented for the 2022-2023 school year. Our building leaders have worked in collaboration with teacher leadership teams to revise school improvement plans, and building level assurances forms have been signed by our exclusive representatives.
Thank you.
I move to approve 5.15 school improvement plans as presented.
Motion by Aaron Stevens,
I'll second.
second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments?
I'd just like to say that these plans that I looked through are so detailed, and I'm really appreciative that you all are of the planning committees of the stakeholders, parents and teachers and administrators who put them together. I mean, they're anywhere from 30 to 70 pages of just focusing on our students and focusing on the schools and improving them. So thank you.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
And especially at the end of the school year, I'll just kind of piggyback off what you said, when our principals and leadership teams are looking at the data that literally is coming out from NWA, it's really live data, and they're trying to pull people together when there are many other tasks at the end of the year. So we do appreciate the work that's put in the spring.
Any other questions or comments? None. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Mrs. Sunstein. Moving on to our item 6, policy review and update. We have 2 policies on second reading. Be happy to entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion that we combine 6.01 policy 4463 credit from non-public schools / homeschools. Move that to approval on second read. And also 6.02 policy 4463.01 correspondence internet courses. Move that one. I'd like to combine both of those, please.
Thank you, Mr. Morey. Second by Jeff Schleifer. Any questions or comments on either of those policies?
neither of these are new policies. They're just being reviewed as part of our process to review every policy we have over a 3-year period.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to items 6.03 and 6.04.
I'd like to make a motion that we move policy 4517, student harassment, and policy 2464, programs for high ability students, to second reading.
I'll second.
Motion by Brad Walton, second by Keith Morey. Any questions or comments?
I had the opportunity today to watch a movie on PureFlix titled Hope Lives, and it deals with student bullying, student harassment, and everything else. I would recommend everyone watch it. It's something that I have to deal with from time to time in my other life with bullying, not just from its onset, but also the long-term effects that it has on children who become adults. And I would recommend it's somewhat of a tearjerker. I don't mind saying that, but it gives you an insight in regards to the different factions of bullying that is taken on by students that we face here and face there and everything else. And if anyone gets the chance, the movie's called Hope Lives, and it's recommended viewing.
Thank you, Mr.
You
Stevens.
said it's on PureFlix, is that right?
Any other
It's
questions?
plain.
Questions
Well,
or comments on the two policies moving forward? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion's passed 7-0.
Mr. President Weber,
Yes, sir.
just in the wake of a lot of the stuff that's going on around the country in public schools, I think it's really important to recognize that a key to this harassment policy is really in service in our staff, teaching them how to recognize it and putting in place procedures. The policy is one thing, but for this to have any impact on students' lives, it has to be embraced, understood, and followed and enforced by our teachers, and by our administrators. And so I would highly encourage us not to just review a policy and then not look at the other half, if you will, of the equation, and particularly with respect to this policy, because the nuances of harassment and modes of harassment continue to just be mind-boggling and as they evolve.
Thank you, Mr. Cross. I'd like to make an adjustment to the agenda. If it's okay with Mrs. Loudermilk and Mrs. Sonsini, I'd like to move the work session before the board reports and discussion. Would that be okay?
Another crowd, Mr. Weber. Am I up?
And President Weber, with regard to the work session, work session item 8.01, the NIET presentation by Mrs. Jennifer Howard. Unfortunately, there was a major accident there on I-70 eastbound. She was not involved, but she indeed had gotten stuck in between Greenfield and Newcastle. And so she will be presenting to the board at our upcoming meeting on July 15th with regard to the NIET initiative.
I will say, Jeff and I got to peek in at some of that work, the NIET, and it was fun to get to see what they were coming up with and all of the initiatives and the brainstorming, and so I'm disappointed to not get to see that tonight.
And she
We'll
was-
look forward to that in July.
She indeed was apologetic. She thought about taking law into her own hands, but I informed her that we won't definitely do that. And we have someone here on our dais that potentially some nevertheless, yes, she will be here in July. I think it's going to be a great presentation. And so President Weber, trustees, I now ask that our
Thank you for being.
School principal, yeah, Mrs. Lowry Mill.
It might help us with our code reports,
What one? The
your presentation.
Okay, so over the past 4 or 5 months, there has been a STEAM committee that has explored the idea of bringing a STEM magnet program to our district. So I, along with Mrs. Sonsini, and we got some input from some others, put together some program goals, what it might look like over the next 3 years. And so the overarching goals are to serve students in 5 through 8 at Hibbard through the development of STEM curriculum and implementation of a STEM program. Remodel the Hibbard, I called it an auditorium, I don't know if it's actually called the Hibbard auditorium, into an imagination lab. I'm going to show you in a minute what Plainfields looks like because it was also a pool, and there's a virtual tour that you can see of the facility. We want to serve, so we want to create equity at grades K through 4 with the we call it whatever we want. We heard the word collaboratory today. I thought that was cool. But allowing students to visit once a month to do those messy things that they can't do in a regular classroom. Science is kind of an afterthought sometimes, and these are things that could be brought in or things that could be done with kids who are brought from each of our elementary schools. And then we want to also make sure that test attendants have STEM electives, have similar programming available to them at their buildings. Okay, just some information about STEM. So last 2 weeks ago, Ms. Washington and Lily Vincent and I went to the IC Summer Institute at IU Bloomington. And we were able to get some information from, it was the Center for Rural Engagement at the School of Ed came together to add the A into STEM to create STEAM. So this was just some information that they shared that STEM employment is growing 3 times faster than any other field. 44% of our kids are prepared for college and for math, and that only 4% of our bachelor's degrees are awarded in engineering, as opposed to 31% in China. That's just an example. You know, we could look at India, or we could look at other countries where we have graduates. Here's some information about what we went and saw. Adam Scribner is the gentleman that ran the institute. It was probably the best PD I'd ever been to, and Schroeder told me it was because at science PD, as Keith probably knows, you do this stuff. You don't just hear about it. So we did solar panels. That's all the way over to the left. We built a solar bench, and the panels are on the top. They're little black rectangles. And then we did mobiles with Alexander Calder. That red thing with the sun behind it, that is an Alexander Calder mobile that Adam said everybody drives by every day and has no idea. It's this big art installation that's very famous. We did wind turbines, and Lily's up there holding an energy stick. So we all held the energy stick and held hands all the way around the room. We sanitized. And it made a noise all the way through all of us. It was just really cool to go and see. So I added in some things that could happen. So year zero's right now, and I made this a couple of weeks ago. So year zero's now, and we want to continue the committee work, look for some more PD opportunities. We already went to the STEAM Institute. We also want to explore the idea of bringing in some consultants. Adam Scribner is available to us. You know, we want to talk with him. And then there is a project-based learning advisor at IU. She's free. We want to secure partnerships with area businesses. I know we have a lot of partnerships, but I think what we're seeking is those experts who can come in the engineering, the math, the science fields. They can come in and work with our students, or they can offer financial partnerships to help build this in our community. And then we need to determine staffing, what staffing needs are needed, or we need for the building. Did this not update? Oh, this didn't update with the, it doesn't have the, Trey, I broke it. There was a video, and this isn't the most up-to-date one. Don't know. I don't know how to, there's no video now.
I'll see if I can find it.
Okay. So year one would be next year, and we would want to build a curriculum for the STEM Academy. We would want to continue with our PD opportunities and look at the facilities needs. I don't have an architect degree, so I don't know what it would need, but we would begin to build a curriculum. So the STEM 5 through 8 would operate independently from the Imagination Lab or whatever that facility is going to be called. So there would be one, they shouldn't interact, I wouldn't think, unless the 5 through 8 students are going there for their experiences. So this would be a lottery application, and we would want to launch that in February of next year, and then select students to come in March of 23. We would want to bring in do some parent nights, like some CSI investigation nights, or some things to show off the facility to drum up some interest in students applying, and then we want to do some summer term opportunities. Then year 2 would be our first 100 students. Hopefully we would house them. We would do like the 4 houses of STEM. We'd have the House of Science, Math, Technology, Engineering, and then we would do quarterly PBL projects where they would explore a community-based problem, and one of the houses would take the lead each of those quarters, and they would help, say there was a bridge that got washed out at the park, they would design a new bridge, whatever it would be. We would want to begin bringing students from K to 4 into our buildings. I think the first year we'd put 6 times a year. So once a grading period. We would start our summer camps, and then we would implement our STEM electives in our other intermediate buildings. And then year 3, we would review our enrollment, consider expanding, continue field trip experiences once a month. So we would go from 6 times a year to 9 times a year, and allow county and non-public schools to attend for a fee, continue the summer camps, and continue the parent nights. Did you add in that?
We'll pause for a minute and maybe we can do some questions. We do want to show you a video, but we're going to give Trey time to access that video.
While they're accessing the video with the soon to be remedied technical difficulties, with regard to the visits that were made, and I know that you all are going to indeed showcase the video footage, but as you mentioned, Mrs. Loudermilk, you were able to be accompanied on the visit there to IU Bloomington by Mrs. Vincent and also Ms. Washington. I'm not sure Mrs. Vincent is in the audience, and I definitely don't want to create a level of discomfort, but I'm curious to hear from Mrs. Washington as well as Ms. Vincent their responses to the visit. And I know that if indeed they prefer not to share their experience, that's fine. But I just want to hear from our classroom educators of the visit and their takeaways, insight, and responses.
She was a little bit of a celebrity there because she would have knowledge of PLTW. She was able to already do a lot of what was happening. So I kind of deferred to her because it was
and that's
her ball game. Yeah.
And thus is the nature for to find out whether or not Ms. Tiana Washington will share with us, because I know that she, as you mentioned, has the background to Project Lead the Way, extensive background with Project Lead the Way, and I know that science is, although it wasn't necessarily my call to education, but like Mr. Moore and others, they enjoy science, and I know Ms. Washington has such a background. But again, I don't want to put anyone in any level of discomfort, but if indeed like to share about the experience, if not, then we can.
Do we think that? Whatever.
No, I was expected to speak tonight, and I am a little distressed with that. But I will guess I will speak. So yes, the experience was very valuable. What she said is one of those PDs that it makes you be involved in the process. They're not just talking at you the entire time. You're actually doing things. I learned quite a few activities that I can implement in my classes. Overall, it was just a great experience, and it doesn't hurt that you get freebies to take home as well. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, it's really good.
Thank you so much,
Big
Mr. Watson.
boxes of stuff they got to bring home with them.
Um,
It's really nice.
I have a question. I think the state is more on the STEAM path or the STEM path.
Mhm.
I mean, and this was, we obviously use STEAM. Where does the STEAM for us fall in, or how does that incorporate, or is that not what we're thinking? If you have any thoughts on that, the arts portion.
I think the limitations for the arts are space, or just generally what space we have available and staffing, because we only have our music people 2 periods a day, and they're all the same 2 periods of the day. So we do have full-time art, but other than that, we don't really have. It would all depend on staffing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's space. Like one of the schools that we visited had the performance studio, and they had a big stage and a big area for that. We just don't have.
Now, looking at the slides that we just went through,
Mhm.
there was a theme that went through, at least I felt there was a theme that went through that this program, although it may be located here, it's going to be an outreach program for all of our students and all of our kids.
Mhm.
So I'm making the assumption that as we advertise this, as we move forward with this, I mean, we still have a lot of steps to go through. But like, for example, you had mentioned, I can't remember now, it's year 0 or 1, about a program director. So I'm thinking this person would be spending time out in the community, would be spending time in the buildings, would be spending time with people coming in the buildings, would be spending time involving other people than just the initial 100 students. I mean, that would be part of the growth that would come from the involvement externally from this program director.
Right. So next year, whoever's involved in the planning in the second semester, they're going to start to pilot some of that curriculum out in the elementaries with the 4th graders. That's what's being proposed. So they'll go out, they'll test out some of the things that have been developed throughout the year, and then once the Imagination Lab is up and running, that is 2 groups a day, 2 grade levels a day who come in, or 2 chunks of kids who come in. And they would be solely responsible for all of that curriculum. The Plainfield, I reference Plainfield because it's a similar facility. There was a director of that facility, and then she had an office clerical, and then she had an instructional assistant.
I think that's the important part of this is, and I'm just going to be upfront. I've been around long enough to know that even if you take a look at the Logos program, how many times that you hear some people like it or don't like it, and one of the phrases that we hear is, that's for special groups or elites or whatever. But the whole vision here that I think we're trying to get out into the community, we're trying to involve a lot of students. We're trying to get, I'd love to see a program like this grow. I mean, especially if 3 times of the jobs being offered, are better for people who go through STEM. I mean, I just think back to smaller versions of this. That when my son went through the school system, in the middle school time frame, he was introduced to labs. And one of the sessions he had, I mean, I think that particular year, they had like 36 labs that they could choose from or look at, and they could select 12 or 9 or something like that. And that experience is what led in him in his career that he's in today. So that's my hope is that with this type of a program that we would inspire and we can catch a lot of kids at a younger age. I would love to see the demand be so great that we have to expand it into multiple buildings. But I just wanted to make sure that my understanding is this program will be we will be out in the community, we'll be taking it to other school buildings, we'll be involving many students. Hence, the lottery piece of that. It's going to be interesting because I think we could create another problem in a couple of years of we only have X slots available and we got more demand. That's a great problem, I think, because we could pivot, move on that. But I think as we move forward with something like this, it's important for us to think about what it's doing for our community and what it's doing for our kids in our community. And better yet, by exposing our children, not that all children don't need it, but if we can grab K through 4 and get them involved in a hands-on project or something, that to me is exciting. So.
Something that's worth mentioning, in our site visits, we took from the STEM committee, we asked for teacher, educators, volunteers to join us on some different trips across the state. So we spent an entire day in Kokomo schools, and we visited an integrated arts school and at the elementary level and a middle school STEM academy. And then we also went on a second visit with different educators from the STEM committee to visit Plainfield and Center Grove. But what I love about the vision and what we've heard from our educators on the committee is they wanted a combination of both. They wanted a program for middle level students, 5 through 8, but they also wanted to do the outreach, and we wanted to get kids interested in all of our elementaries. And what we saw when we were at different schools across the state, maybe they did it one way. So our vision is to kind of blend both of those and grow it as students continue to enroll. The second piece, I was working with the video, but I think you mentioned something about standards. We do have new science standards that have just been released. And so we will be transitioning next year with full implementation during the 23-24 school year. And we learned today in a STEM training that those standards are, they look and feel different. And so we're gonna have to do some work with our educators, but this is another opportunity to embed those computer science standards differently in the work that we're doing.
We'll just put one thing, maybe done. So with the intent of going initially, I can understand bringing them to the imagination lab and that type of stuff, but going into the buildings, we're going in and grabbing whole classes of students with parents, with teachers that we're not going back several years ago, like when we had the Aspire or the Wings program, where we actually pulled students out of the class and they, some of them would fall behind, missing for the. So this is an inclusive idea.
Very similar to like your electives that you have at the elementary, where you have gym and media and art. This would be another opportunity, and we'd like to get as many opportunities throughout the year. One school district that we visited did once a quarter, or even just once a year with the grade level. We felt like we wanted more than that. We wanted monthly if we could pull it off. So again, we're kind of dreaming big. But the idea with 4th grade being the target is because we would start with 5th through 8th that first year. If we could get out second semester and start, obviously teachers are going to be learning a new curriculum, and so it's a great opportunity for them to practice with kids. And so we thought, first semester, if we can develop the vision and the curriculum and get all of the pieces in place, then second semester we could really focus on engaging the community in terms of family nights and different events. For example, spring break, we could do a camp for those that don't leave town. Hey, you could come to STEM Academy and learn, just to kind of create some excitement around the work. So then it would help with enrollment. But we do hope to expand down to kindergarten. But obviously that 4th grade group that first year, next year, is going to be a target audience because they would be that first incoming class in 5th grade.
I like it. So we're looking at camps year round.
Well, we've heard all kinds of things. We've heard like family nights throughout the school year. We've heard when schools close for breaks that we could offer something. We've heard summer camps. At first, summer camps, they were charging or they weren't.
They were not charging, and then people would sign up and then not show up. So then they started charging a nominal placeholder fee.
We also learned today of a district nearby that was doing a STEM day where their high school students were opening up for their elementaries, and elementary students were coming over and doing different STEM stations with the high school students leading it. So I think there's lots of possibility. And as we connect with others across the state, everyone's doing it a little bit differently. And I think that's the beauty of the work that Cassie and the STEM team have done just in the last few months is try to figure out what fits for us and for students and families.
I love the STEAM focus, but I just want to say as an engineer, I'm a trained civil engineer, the arts piece is the attractive piece for me. I think the STEAM part gets people involved and engaged, but in the field, I mean, my colleagues and friends, I mean, that's what's missing from a technical background is that arts piece. And so I know it may be difficult, but I'd like to see us make sure it's in the mix in some way, because to me, that's, as a practicing engineer, that's where the creativity comes. That's where, I mean, anyone can learn to do the math, but that arts piece, that's where I think the more the magic can happen.
Absolutely. Take that into consideration. Yeah.
Just
be support knowing how.
Were you all indeed able to get the video to work at this point? Okay, it's not a problem. We'll,
We can send a link out. It basically is just a tour of the playing field.
I think it was the rendering from the architect where they came in and did a virtual tour, and then in person it looks almost identical, except instead of having tables everywhere, they have the actual robots or all those.
And what we continue to hear was the space is as important, so that when students are coming in, it looks and feels different. So not only is it the educators and the curriculum that you're creating, but it's the space they're walking into that really is transforming, and that they know it can be messy and feel different than a classroom, especially for those visits. We propose going out into the elementaries that first semester, second semester of next year. But then after that, we would want kids to bus in. And so they shared, some of the school districts that we visited shared, like, when the kids were getting off the bus, it was super exciting because they knew it felt different than what the traditional science experience was in the classroom.
Yeah, it was their day to go.
Their
It
day
was
to go.
very exciting, yeah.
But all in all, we indeed and sincerely appreciate the preparation and the work that you all put in with the presentation and of the charge that you all, along with the STEM committee, have been dealt. You all are indeed exploring, taking time to learn and find as much facts as you can. I definitely appreciate Ms. Washington's contribution. As Ms. Loudermilk had shared, this was one of the best professional development sessions that she had ever attended. And I know in speaking with Mrs. Loudermilk prior to today, she was just head over heels with the overall experience. And I know from administration, that's one thing, but hearing from a classroom representative of the caliber of Ms. Washington definitely was very helpful to understand that theory can be indeed carried out in practice. As we oftentimes know, theory and practice sometimes don't go hand in hand. Those that are in the trenches, they can definitely provide such input. So I definitely appreciate and look forward to talking to Ms. Vincent to gain her insight and her response to the experience.
Thank you both.
You guys, thank you, Liz. Thank you.
All right, moving on to board reports and discussions. I guess I won't say the number. Are we 8.01 now? Educational Planning Working Group. Do we have an update from Kristen, Keith, and Aaron?
We haven't met.
Yeah, we've not met since the last.
Well, that was a good update right there.
So is there an upcoming meeting?
There's not.
I'm not aware of one.
Well,
okay.
now, I mean, I'm just gonna go back to last board meeting during, we had talked about, we announced that the the early college kids were moving back to the middle school. And I think at the last board meeting, we were ready to move forward on that, but we recommended that we move it to this board meeting. So is that on the table, or are we moving forward with that? Or, I mean, I just think there's been a lot of confusion out there, and I'll take as big as it is anyone, but you know, we really do try to communicate, and we really do try to think ahead, and we really try to, so I just, if there's any misconceptions about the intent or the direction we're heading, you know, I just soon face it head on. So I was under the impression that we were going to finalize that tonight. I know it's not on the agenda, but it wasn't really under it was under the educational group meeting heading last week or last board meeting as well. So,
With it not being on the agenda tonight, I mean, would you be, I would rather see it postponed until it is on the official agenda, just so we have time to mentally, wrap our minds
I'm
around
at the
that.
will of
I
the
feel
board.
like
I just want to make sure that we don't.
we still have, some people that have been putting their 2 cents in, and, I know, I personally, would like to hear what REA has to say tomorrow when we're meeting with them. I'm wanting to hear their thoughts on that, so that's one of the things that.
I'm fine with it. I'm just, if that's what we want to do, I'm fine with it. I'm just saying, we said we would make a decision, or we would make it final tonight, so if we're not, I think we need to announce it. We're gonna wait till our-
Did we say we were making it final tonight? I didn't know.
I felt pretty sure we said that we're making it final tonight, because I think there's some staffing decisions and notification decisions that are being held.
Okay, if we said we would do that, then we need to do it. That's.
But you bring up good points, Nicole. I'm not trying to push the issue. I'm just, well, I guess I am trying
Well,
to push the
if
issue.
we
I'm
said
just,
we're doing it, then we need to do it. I mean,
so.
The
is there any
recommendation
people that are
last
waiting
meeting
to hear?
was to put the students back in their homeschool, try to keep them in a cohort, group. So
I know there's been a lot of discussion with it.
I don't know what administration's discussed. That was out of the 15-minute recess. That was the recommendation.
Right.
And education committee did not meet in those 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So does administration need more time, or is that the recommendation that still stands?
Of the recommendation that was arrived at the last school board meeting, after recess. To Mr. Schleckler's point, I know that our educators, indeed, as well as we at Central Office, with such direction and guidance, it allows us and allows, most importantly, our educators to understand what next steps will be taken and what next steps they need to be prepared for. It's one of the things that is of most importance as time continues to move on. We will blink and it will be August 10th, like yesterday. And so the recommendation that that was arrived at after recess from the Board of Trustees working group, we for the most part stand at the behest of you what was told.
So I'd be happy to entertain a motion if one is so presented.
A couple of things.
I continue to get, we all just got an email in the last hour from someone involved with opinions. We've heard from opinions here. I know there have been some staffing changes, if you will. I don't know how things are settling out. I know people are moving. Now is the time when people move. So I recognize that. What are the downsides to pushing this? I'm asking. I'm recognizing that
Downsides are uncertainty.
Yeah.
People are wanting to know.
and people don't know where they will be. A certain section of, early college folks wouldn't know where they are going until July 13th if we push. That being said, I think there's value to have that conversation with folks that are in a meeting that's already scheduled and hearing that feedback.
Well, that meeting's had to been postponed. So,
It was tomorrow.
well, it had to be moved back
Right.
to tomorrow because
Yeah.
of some unforeseen circumstances and that were out of everybody's control. So, ideally, we would have loved to had that meeting before and had a consensus tonight.
Here.
I have closed schools. I have hired superintendents. We meaning I, have voted to just a lot of difficult decisions in my time on the board. I can say that this has probably been the most difficult decision to grapple in my mind in my time on the board. Enhanced by, a student that I met a couple of weeks ago who was one of those who was going to be affected, and having someone look up at a police officer and cry. I understand rationales, but on today's date, I'm just not ready to move forward. Me personally. What I mean by that, I'm thinking about a kid who cried in my arms, and I'm just having difficulty at this point.
No, absolutely.
All right, so, okay.
We'll just do it. I mean, every one of us have our own feelings on this, I'm sure. Some of us may not, I've listened to a lot of comments both ways. The argument or the reasoning is probably a better word, more fitting. This, moving the students this year that have formed that relationship don't change any at all next year when we actually start the program. The only difference is we'll be, dealing with 30 students versus 40 students or whatever the numbers are. I mean, we're still going to be faced with that trauma of children moving, whether it's this year or next year. I think we've dragged this issue along too long. In interest of being transparent, the conversation has been going on for a long time. So I guess I would like to put a motion on the table that we move forward with the announcement that we're going ahead and move the early college kids back to the middle schools in their cohort group, do the best job that we can, so we can, put this decision behind us, and move forward with rebuilding. And if it doesn't get a second motion,
So
I think I'm ready to move forward and start rebuilding instead of dragging out the pain that's going to happen, whether it's now or a year from now.
I have numbers from the last education planning working group, and my understanding is, so it would be based on those numbers that I have from that. We're talking about 67 students. I don't know how accurate that is at this point, but between grades 5, 6, and 7, we're talking about 67 students. I guess what I would like.
So next year it would be 40 students.
Next year be 46, based on the numbers that we were given. Yeah, 46 who have had a year to understand what the process is versus now. I mean, there's no good. I agree with you. Our timeline is beyond broken. We talked about that last meeting. But at this point, I would like to, I think what would be useful is for us to have we had the presentation tonight. Let's get 2 layouts. What does it look like? Budget standpoint, et cetera. If we keep early college for 1 more year and disband it after this year, what does it look like if we go ahead and disband it now and send all 67 back? I feel like I would be able to make a more informed decision if I could look at those 2 proposals right next to each other and go, okay, here's how it lays out this way. Here's how it lays out that way. I don't know where other people stand on that.
I would agree with that. I mean, I'd like to see what the programming would look like with such a small number of students at Hibbert if they stayed, and how that would be affected, and how it would look if they went back to Pastor Dennis, and how to keep that group, how would that work, what would the programming look like for the students?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that is something that we do. Could we have a education planning working group meet next week? And
Next board meeting, July 13th.
correct.
So
We could have a special meeting if we needed to catch a week or 2. We could meet next week if we needed to. As a board.
well,
And I highly suggest that if indeed that's the actions that the board is going to take, that indeed that meeting will be next week. Again, as I mentioned, with regard to we at central office, our building level leaders, and most importantly, our educators that may or may not be in transit. We definitely need to arrive at such a decision. And so if that
well,
is
my
indeed-
motion didn't get a second, so it looks like it's moving to next week. Which is fair. That's how it's supposed to work.
All right, so to be clear, the education working group is going to meet early next week. Can that
Yes, we
happen?
can schedule that.
Can we do that?
And I also just wanted to provide just transparency with numbers, Mr. Moore, to make sure that we're accurate. Mrs. Laudermilk did provide the following data based on the current guidelines established for early college regarding the number of students returning for the 22-23 school year. The teacher stated they would be willing to keep all students another year if that meant they kept the cohort together. The information is being relayed on behalf of Mrs. Laudermilk to ensure teacher voice is represented. And I did share that 10 of our 26 students would remain in the building for grade 6. 12 of 22 students would remain in the building for grade 7, and 20 of 22 students would remain in the building for grade 8. So my total, based on those calculations and the data that was provided, would be 42 students.
I thought it was closer to 40.
I think some of them are going to float. Can I clarify down? Am I allowed to clarify? I don't.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Okay. No, I was. They said that they would be willing to keep all students in the building regardless of the guidelines of the GPAs that would remove them if it meant they could keep all kids together. So the guidelines of early college are that students are removed once they've gone on 2 learning compacts, and that's based on solely those numbers. So if we follow the same guidelines that we have in the past, those students that have been on 2 consecutive contracts, those are the numbers that would remain.
So can you read those 3 again? Because I think what I got 5, 6, and 7.
10, 12.
So it's going into 6, 7,
Yeah,
8.
6, 7, and 8.
So
So
5th grade going into 6th grade, it would be 10 students would remain of the 26 in the initial cohort. 6th going into 7th grade would be 12 of 22 students. And 7th into 8th grade would be 20 of 22 students.
So those are students that meet the requirements
Correct.
to continue.
To stay.
Now what you're saying is
We would scrap that.
we would flex those requirements. Can you well maybe at the education planning meeting we could get those numbers.
But if this were a normal year, then over half of the 5th graders going into 6th grade would be sent back, and over half of the current students would be going back?
Potentially. There are always extenuating circumstances if there's something that happened in the child's life and we kept a student.
Okay.
And there also would have been recruiting done.
Oh,
So
right,
we would have
right.
pulled other kids into the building.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's a big number in my mind. I mean, over half of the students were going to, don't meet the criteria to be there.
And I base that solely on GPA. So
Right.
And this is my first year, so there could be other reasons why.
What a first year.
Ms. Orsini, I'm sorry, would you go through those 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8
10,
numbers
12,
again? I want
20.
to, yeah, I want to go, I
10
want to
of
make sure I've
26.
got 10 of
10
26.
of 26,
12
Okay.
of 22.
12 of 22, and 20 of 22.
Okay.
Cassie, it looks like you have a couple teachers in the back that are like really biting us a bit to speak right now. If you can get with them, talk and get their information and relay it to us at the meeting for the education committee, that'd be great. We want to be able to make sure their voices and concerns are heard.
Right, and I don't want to misspeak because
Right,
it is
right,
my
right.
first year, so I don't want
They may have some information that you're not aware of, so that's fine.
All right. So
I can do that.
keeping the best interest of the students at the forefront, knowing the program's going away. How do we best serve those students? I think it's, and if they can remain in the Heber building, I think that's reasonable. They need to move to their home schools. I think that's also a reason. So I think,
I don't think the building has anything to do with what's in the best interest of a child. I think it's the relationships they have with their staff that are with them. That's why, you know, if the cohort, if the group stay together in a middle school, that's the reasoning I have behind that. My son went to 5 different schools, 5 years ago. But what was consistent was the staff. And he never missed a beat. So, and I'm not saying that, you know, some children don't feel more comfortable with the same wall, but I mean, it's the staff that makes the difference. So, I just personally don't feel like, because it's a building, if we put different staff in that building to keep those teachers there, then that's not good either. So, it's the teachers staying with the students. That's what's important to me.
anything else on educational planning working group or early college?
So we're looking at doing a public meeting next week.
Yes.
I guess it also any information that we could get from the teachers or the administration there and how that would look if we kept 42 students there and how that would work, I guess.
Well, I'm hearing that it wouldn't
It may be more than
40.
42.
I'm
Maybe
hearing that there would be,
67, or
yeah.
I think there's some more discussion that needs to be brought back to the educational committee.
And maybe that, again, I don't know.
Working group, sorry.
Right, but maybe that working group, for the purposes of this, we have those if we can gather that information and then in that working group meet with a slightly larger format so that we can hear pros and cons. What is bad about this? What's good about this? I think could be useful as well.
Because I guess for me, hearing that 40 in a normal year, probably this many students would have gone back. Why would we change what's best for those students just to keep them at the building? When if this were a regular year and they went by the guidelines, then we would have tried to fit what was best for those students on a different path. So if the only reason is to keep them there, just to keep them at Hipper, that may not be the best course for those students if we're thinking about them educationally and how they're successful.
I think we let the education committee meet with a slightly larger group, or whoever Ms. Loudermilk wants to bring to the group. And I think we're gonna have a lot better numbers next week at their meeting.
Sounds good.
Assuming that the educators aren't on vacation next week.
I get it.
That's why I said the timing, we just.
Right.
Yeah, but we've already bumbled the timing so
We've
many times at this
But
point.
we gotta
that-
get it done as quick as we can. So everybody has some clarity what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean,
the
staffing.
I don't want to prolong it another week, but after getting a little bit of correspondence today, late.
So you said you get correspondence today.
Yeah.
We got an email about an hour and a half before the board meeting, and just some of the numbers are kind of, we want to know exactly what we're dealing with. So I think going 1 week's reasonable.
All right. Anything else? Thank you all. 7.0 or 8.02 buildings and grounds. Jeff, Brad, Nicole.
We only had one meeting. It was a quick meeting. Talked about the flooring at the high school on the 3rd floor. It's been a topic on whether what we could afford or what we like and what we want to settle on. We had asked, and I forget the gentleman's name. Just let Mick. Thank you. You should be the one talking.
You're doing
But
great.
he initially came to the meeting 3 weeks ago with some samples. He himself admitted that they really weren't representative because they were super glossed and super.
Yeah, almost too much enamel on it.
Yeah, I mean, it was really over the top, so to speak.
It would have been too slick.
So the group asked for some other samples as close to the color mixture to the original terrazzo that we could get. He came back with 2 other samples of 5% and 10% or 5% and 2.5% blend. But I said, I found them earlier before the board meeting. I asked him to leave the sample here so they're inside when you go to sign, you'll see what the sample is. But Nicole brought up some good points about the definitions between the dark and black border going up against the tile. In the original sample, there was no barrier. We had asked for it to find out. It was included in the bids, so we have to provide it anyway. And it really sharpens it up. It really absolutely sharpens it up. So I know there's going to be discussion to the 1st floor about still going to terrazzo, but right now we're only doing the 3rd floor. And so those samples are in there. And I think that's kind of the direction they're moving in. So look at those tonight when you sign. He did a pretty good job of the black border matching the tile. We talked about how it fits and all that stuff. So anything you want to add?
Yeah, I did reach out in regards to the solar energy estimate, so via email, and I asked John and Glenn to both look into that just to see, we were looking at an estimate, so I thought the board was interested in at least finding out like if that's an option for us. So so I'm on that, and then we've met twice with buildings and grounds, and in that second to last, we started discussing what options we have in regards to gender neutral bathrooms, if that is something that we can do or not. So we have started that conversation just to kind of start looking into the possibilities. So just so people know.
But we've also learned that there's a lot of things they want to throw to the facilities committee, like the recycling and all of those. There's a lot. So I think we probably ought to sit back, get together, and just set some priorities here, because I could see things start to.
Or the catch-all committee.
Yeah, start to pile up, especially. Because one of the things I want to make sure that we're talking about the more big picture items and not getting so caught in the little items. I'd like to have more discussion about projects coming out for bids ahead of time, or more discussion as far as the policy of what we want as far as recycling, those types of things. But we're learning.
All right. 8.03 Finance Working Group. Jeff, Kristen.
I took notes.
Good.
That don't forget back then. So Karen is like giving a college course to us on the finances. She's excellent. But this last meeting, I mean, our goal is the routine fiscal monitoring, so we can always keep track, monitor what's going on, and think about future financial planning. And so this last meeting, we learned about the current bonds bonds, the 3 bonds that are out, and the purpose of them and their current amounts, the remaining balances. And also Karen shared about circuit breakers and the projection for those amounts coming up. So we have a meeting coming up in a week or so and focusing on the 2023 budget prep work. So just kind of recap of the bonds and, and the leaseholds and what they're there for and what the balances are, I guess.
And one of the things on our to-do list is to look at financial goals. So.
Great. 8.04 marketing. Brad, John, Nicole.
All right, well, I can talk about that. Just really emphasized again and again the need for communications, whatever, lots of avenues of that, and lots of repetition in regards to, just needing to, whatever, and transparency, wanting to be transparent. So just need showing, or we're there's a deficit there right now, and so we're needing to meet that need. So one of the things we talked about was we'd like to get, obviously Dr. Wright is supposed to be our voice, and just charging him with, welcome back, and just charging him with, whatever it is that we're working on, whatever we're doing, strategic plans, goals, all of that, just making sure that we're communicating that, and doing a better job of that. We're just recognizing that that's something we need to do a lot better at. So that was, I feel like, the gist of the meeting. Did you guys have other things to?
There's just trying to do a better job with the whole. Communication was the key part of it. How we communicate with our public, or stakeholders, or teachers, or staff, or students. And so.
To that end, I did want to, sorry.
No,
I wanted to say, when we did have the opportunity to meet with the nurses that came, Deb Strassner, and also Christy Anderson, Lauren Ogden, who had spoke at our last meeting, had an excellent meeting with them. Just, they brought up some great concerns. So it was great to hear from them just what it is they're primarily concerned with as far as the Meridian Health Care Services, just as we're looking into even if that's a possibility or if that's a good option for us. We did reemphasize that we're strictly in the exploratory phase, and we're able to have just a very open dialogue with them. And what I was going to say in regards to communication is just, I apologize for the fact that I feel like we could have done better in communicating with them, and just owning that. I feel like we need to do better at communicating. So in talking with them, they acknowledged that apology, and we're appreciative of that, and are wanting to be in the conversation. So we've invited them to continue to be in that conversation. We have lots to figure out still with in regards to if this is a viable option or if we need to close it down. So anyway, what else did you guys from that meeting feel like?
I don't know. I think they were waiting for a lot of answers, and Meridian just got back with the answers from what I hear, so I haven't seen them yet myself. So.
Well, and there's questions that were posed to the board as well, and I don't know that we are able to answer those questions right now either. So I think
Interesting
that
enough, if I apologize to interject, during the executive committee meeting when we did meet with RCS, the RCS nursing team, a multitude of the questions that they posed for the board was indeed highlighted and answered. One of the questions that they had was one of the most important questions that they wanted to know. There were multiple important questions. One of the most was, is the decision something that is going to be brought before the board for vote anytime soon? And one of the things that we expressed to them is that we indeed would be exploring, fact finding, and most importantly, engaging in continual dialogue with them, and keep them abreast and in tune as to any and all steps that are taken. And so they too have received the responses from Meridian Health Services to the questions they posed, and the Meridian Health Service representatives provided detailed responses to a number of the questions that they found to be very important, especially with the idea of keeping the entire team intact. So
Have they had those answers long enough to respond back?
we all just received the question, the responses just today.
Okay.
Yeah, and Meridian Health just provided those today. So, we're anxious indeed to hear from our RCS nursing team to find out what their response to the answers that have been provided.
All right.
And then one other thing in regards to communication, as I referenced earlier, we do have a meeting with the REA exec committee. I want to just say thank you for reaching out, for providing us that opportunity to listen. That's what we want to do. We want to hear your concerns. We want to better understand your thoughts and your ideas on how we can better serve the school district. So thank you.
All right, anyone else have anything, board reports or discussion? All right, moving on to preview of upcoming meeting and events.
President Weber, trustees, our next scheduled board meeting is July 13th, Wednesday, July 13th of next month. However, what has evolved and manifested this evening, seems we'll have a special meeting next week, and so once we are able to solidify a date, we'll be making that public, so that those that would like to attend indeed can be here to attend. But again, the next scheduled meeting will be Wednesday, July 13th, and at that meeting, we as central office leaders, along with building level leaders, plan to present the strategic goals and also to present the nature of how the goals were arrived at. This, as I understand, has been a multi-year project that has led to the goals that we'll share. We also will be introducing our new leadership hires at the central office as well as even at the building level. And we also will be reviewing student achievement data from this past year that by July 13th will be that much more detailed and accurate.
We want to put it out there for the June 22nd, also special board meeting
June 22nd.
next week. Special board meeting.
So a week from today.
Yeah, a week from today.
Yeah, I mean, that, I mean, we need to discuss. I mean, that would be the easiest date, I think, for most of us.
Well, we need to make sure that they can collect the information before that. Yeah. Let's wait until we hear from them.
I mean, there'll be 48 hours notice for the public regardless.
Right, I was just trying to get ahead of it.
Yeah. But yeah, it depends on that committee can meet. Also, I believe at the July 13th meeting, we had talked about doing a prospective board member forum. And so I think ISBA, the state organization, has forums as well. There is one that is virtual. However, the live forums are nothing is really close. So I think it would be in our best interest to do that ourselves, and then encourage them to at least do the virtual one. And so I'm not sure if that would happen before the board meeting or after. We'll get the logistics to that figured out as well. So, anything else? Okay, adjournment and bell ring.
President Weber, trustees, I ask that Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker, our communication specialist, rejoin the conversation to share tonight's bell ring.
It's summer, so I'm off to London. Just Richmond High School Alumni Association is hosting a golf outing next Friday, June 24th at the Elks Country Club. And those interested in participating are encouraged to call the alumni office at 973-3338. And then bell ringer information, I have a lot of information for the class of 2022. So we had 271 graduates. We had 77 academic honors diplomas, 15 technical honors diplomas, and we had 6 students that had both technical academic honors diplomas, a technical honors diploma, and an academic honors diplomas. We also had 138 core 40 diplomas, 28 general diplomas, and 7 certificates of completion. So overall, we had over a 95% graduation rate for our class of 2022. We also had 6 military enlistees, and we also had 1 student who was appointed to the U.S. Air Force Academy. National Honor Society, we had 88 students, and the National Merit, we had 1 student also receive the National Merit Scholarship winner. 14 valedictorians, and those students all had a 4.5 or higher GPA. And finally, we had an Indiana High School Athletic Association Middle Attitude Award winner. Great news.
Thank you.
Well, in conclusion, last week I was able to attend with Ms. Whoopi and representatives from Ivy Tech Community College a celebration banquet for high school dual credit educators from around the state, and they were identifying the state dual credit teacher of the year, as well as different teacher of the year awards for different regions. And our very own, Mr. Joshua something, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, was awarded with the Ivy Tech Community College dual credit teacher of the year, and he and his wife, along with other supporters, were in attendance, and we indeed will be celebrating Mr. Sonny at a later board date this fall to identify and highlight the amazing work that he's done here in RCS for more than a decade, I believe now at this time. And with that dual credit program, he is definitely renowned and beloved, and has just a self-service heart like so many. So we definitely want to send him.
He's as good of a man as a teacher. And I know Kristen and Nicole, you guys are doing kind of a tour going through the schools. If you get a chance to go down when school's in session for the automotive department, man, he does some cool stuff down there. And
I visited him.
the kids are really engaged, and he does a lot of special things down there.
He had gotten a car donated.
He's got
Yeah,
we have like
that
a
they
fleet
were-
from Subaru.
Yes, that they were working on.
Yeah.
I was like, who donates a whole car?
He's
That's
got
why
a
he
heck
did
of
the
a
legwork to do that. Yeah.
relationship with area dealers and co-op students out, and then just the fact you have a Subaru dealership just donating cars left and right.
No, I was very impressed. So
Good job.
I want to add to Bridget's discussion about graduation. I think being there, that's one of the coolest parts of this gig, is to be able to shake those kids' hands, and half those kids. You look so different. I don't recognize you from when I knew you in 8th grade, but so apologies if I missed anybody and didn't say, hey, good job, so and so. But I think attending there, the level of organization that our administrators over there have, and all of the things that go into that, and the coordination, and I mean, just watching all of those administrators at the high school administrators buzzing around, going, no, you're over here, and you're in this line, and nope, you're behind here. And it's really impressive to me. And I just want to say how impressed I was with those guys.
Definitely pretty cool when you just walk in there like, here's your cap and gown, you stand here, and you go behind this person and go. And
so
it's just
kudos to them on pulling
speaking
off
of caps
a pretty
and
good.
gowns, I don't know if this is something that is possible at all. Is there any way we could start like a donation program when kids are done with their cap and gowns, that they could be given to the kids next year?
They actually do that. If
They do.
anyone doesn't want it, they'll keep them, and
Okay.
then they'll offer them to kids
So
that
what's
need
the
them.
info
They
on that?
just don't.
'Cause,
You can either, I'll take them in my office and walk them over, but they'll take them at the high school, so they can drop them off at the main office or just leave them, at door 1. In the summer, no one's at door 1, so people are welcome to leave them at my office. I'll take them over.
Okay, so you might get
advertise
inundated.
that. Yeah, if we advertise that, I think that'd be really
Yeah.
good.
Okay,
So
so
we have
anybody who doesn't want their cap and gown,
You can drop it off at central
at
office.
central office.
Mhm. If they would like a tax donation letter of the little bit that costs,
Okay.
we can do that as well. They just need to leave us their name and address.
All right, I appreciate that. I feel like there's a lot of waste there that could be avoided.
We have the pride store and we collect a lot of things for interviews. We have we put kids in interview clothes. So,
I knew that, I just didn't know about the cap and gowns.
yes, sir.
If I can refer back to Miss Hazel Baker, you announced a Mental Attitude Award winner. Could you give us the name and?
Liz Ruger.
Okay. All right. I wanted to make sure at least publicly her name was mentioned because I don't think.
So maybe say it.
Yes.
Liz Ruger,
Liz Ruger.
because they're not, that won't be
Yeah, they can't hear us.
public with them saying
And
it.
then
That's fine.
Savannah Blair was the one who received the National Merit Scholarship. So say her name, please.
Savannah Blair received a National Merit Scholarship.
Air Force Academy was
And
added.
Addie Moore is going.
United States Air Force Academy
Thank
All
you.
right.
out in Colorado.
Anything else for the good of the cause? Meeting adjourned. So that.